Hi, I'm Darryn Farrugia and welcome. In this video I'm going to talk about the hi-hat, and I've done videos in the past on the hi-hat and certainly with how we can affect a groove and the way something feels by how we play the hi-hat. I'm going to leave a link to a couple of those videos in the description below. In this video I want to talk about some ways that some really famous drummers actually play the hi-hat, and in this video I'm going to focus mainly on Keith Carlock, Ringo Starr and Steve Jordan. Each of those three drummers have a peculiar and very personalized way of playing the hi-hat, and I would start by saying that the examples that I'm going to give today are not necessarily the only way they play the hi-hat, but there's a particular thing that they do when they play the hi-hat that kind of affects the way a groove can feel. I'm going to copy three styles of hi-hat played by those three drummers and apply it to a groove. Now I should also mention that due to the wonders of YouTube, there is so much footage out there of all of these great drummers, and so I've singled out three drummers, but there are so many drummers that you could choose to copy when it comes to the way they play their hi-hat. You could check out drummers like Charlie Watts. Charlie Watts has a really interesting way of playing the hi-hat. He doesn't do it all the time, but often when he plays a rock beat, he won't play the hi-hat on 2 and 4, kind of like this. So that's worth checking out. Again, it's a style of hi-hat playing that's really personalized to Charlie Watts. And then there are other drummers whose style you can copy, for example, whether it be Taylor Hawkins, Nate Smith, John Bonham. So anyway, let's start with Keith Carlock. Keith Carlock is one of the most individual sounding drummers on the planet today. When I listen to him, I can't really hear who his influences are. He's just so individualized, and he's got a great pocket, and he is employed by all the greatest bands and musicians on the planet. Now, one thing I see Keith Carlock do when he plays the hi-hat, and I think this is particularly true when he plays with Steely Dan, is he uses a particular type of hi-hat technique where he's just using the tip and playing a very loose but very rebounded style of playing off the surface of the hi-hat, kind of like this. If you listen to recordings by Steely Dan and music of that genre, the hi-hats and generally speaking the overheads aren't prominent in the mix. So with this type of playing, that's kind of the approach I'm hearing. It's not a loud hi-hat approach, it's not a washy hi-hat approach, and I think also for the type of drumming that appears on a lot of Steely Dan and Donald Fagen records for that matter, the hi-hat can sound very machine-like, and I think that's what Keith is going for when he plays this way. So I'm going to play you an example of that, and for this example I'm going to use a pair of K Constantinople hi-hats. The next drummer I want to focus on is Ringo Starr. Now, Ringo Starr's influence in the world of rock drumming cannot be overstated. He is really a very, very massive influence on drummers today. In fact, a lot of the techniques that Ringo introduced in the 60s, playing with the Beatles, are styles of playing on the hi-hat and certainly on the cymbals that have been emulated by drummers, especially a sound that you would hear in 90s grunge music. So I'm talking about those loose, washy, open hi-hats, and certainly that way of playing the crash cymbal as a ride. The particular quirk in Ringo's hi-hat playing is the way he sweeps his hi-hat from left to right using this really beautiful fluid motion. And he does this when he's playing the hi-hat closed and also when he's playing the hi-hat open. So here's an example of what he does playing closed. 1, 2, 3, 4. And here's the same motion with the hi-hats open. So I'm going to be playing this example using a pair of early 1960s 15-inch new beat hi-hats that are my dad's, and he bought these in I think about 1962, 1963. Not exactly sure what year that they were made, but he bought them brand new back in those days. So here's the Ringo approach with that same groove. The third drummer whose hi-hat style I'm going to attempt to emulate is that of Steve Jordan's. Now, Steve Jordan has been on the planet for quite a while and making some incredible music, not only as a drummer but also as a producer. And one of the things I love about Steve is his incredible ability to pick really great snares and snare drum sounds and hi-hat sounds and cymbal sounds for the particular songs that he's playing. Well, I should say that this is one of Steve's hi-hat approaches, but this is one I like to use and one I certainly love copying. So this particular style of playing of the hi-hat, Steve plays the hi-hat pretty close to the middle of the stick. Now, when you do that, you lose a lot of the transient or a lot of the attack of the stick, and you certainly get a much fatter, warmer attack on the hi-hat. So this is what I'm talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's using this part of the stick and really pushing the stick into the hi-hat. You lose a lot of the attack, but you really get this nice warm, rounded transient, let's say. So for this example, I'm going to use a pair of 17-inch hi-hats, which are basically two 17-inch crash cymbals. What I want to do now is give you an example of those three hi-hat styles back to back. I'm going to play 4 bars of each of those hi-hat styles on this pair of hi-hats so that you can hear the difference between those styles. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not only does that affect the sound of the hi-hats, but those particular motions with which you're playing the hi-hats really give the groove a particular lope. I remember quite a few years ago I got to see Ringo Starr play here in Melbourne. And I've got to say that was one of the happiest days of my life. I remember as soon as he started playing the drums, it just sounded and felt like Ringo Starr. And it all has to do with the lope and his body movement and his motion that goes behind playing a groove. So in summary, this is kind of an experiment, but something that you can have a lot of fun with. And it doesn't have to be these 3 drummers. Pick a few drummers, have a close look at their hi-hat playing style and try to superimpose that on top of any type of groove and see what comes of it. I mean, I was using a pretty funky groove, but it doesn't have to be funky. It can be a straight rock thing, whatever. And it doesn't have to be just a straight rock thing. You might find a particular way drummers play shuffle grooves or 12/8 grooves. You know, sometimes copying these things is a real eye-opener into how they approach playing time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, hit the like button. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe, and remember to hit that notification bell so that you know when I've uploaded a video, which is every week. So, until next week, have a great week, and see you all soon. Bye. Man, these glasses are so dirty. Woo! Gross. Gross. Whoa, that hurt my ears. Woo!